Hey guys, welcome back. It is time for Midwest Fantasy Football Week 5 recap. And as you can tell, we are in a different location. Ricky has D&D tonight. So Aaron has graciously stepped in here, and he is nervous as hell. I told him to just basically talk and don't bother with the camera or the mic or the lights or any of that stuff. So looking at the first game this week, top scorer this week was Lee's Cup My Balls, taking out Ethan's pretty good team, which was only pretty good this week, 148.4 to 121. Aaron, you got anything to say about this one right out of the gate?
I am glad that Ethan finally lost. I'm not 100% sure who let him in the league, but...
Well, it turns out.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
Right. Off the bat, I mean, he didn't have enough to come back and win. He had, Williams on the bench would have given him 10 points. Kraft would have given him another 5. It wasn't enough. Ballsy playing 3 different injured players. 2 questionable, 1 doubtful, and...
So those are the statuses when I print them. They're not what happened in the game. Aaron Jones wasn't questionable. He got hurt during his game. That's the drawback to doing this later. You get live data except for the recap numbers. So, Aaron Jones got hurt in the middle of that game. I think Kittle played the whole game. I mean, he's listed as questionable now, and Moody's a kicker, so who the hell cares? Especially since he's a Niner, so...
Yeah, only other thing I will say, impressed Lee, about 85 points across wide receivers, including the flex spot. That's a hell of a play.
That is exactly what I highlighted too, was the 3 wide receivers.
Yeah.
The other thing that I highlighted for Lee, because we like to talk about the winning team first before we talk about the losing team.
All right. Fair
Since
enough.
we gave Ricky crap about that last week. I did specifically denote, you had started Kareem Hunt here, who put up 21 points for you in your running back slot. He was the waiver wire claim that everybody was after this week. You were the one that grabbed him for $37 over 8 other players who missed out on him. So props for you for grabbing him properly and having the confidence to shove him into your lineup right out of the gates. That was the only other thing I had on my list was flipping over to Lee's bench. You had Darnell Mooney on your bench who put up 31.5 points. As if you didn't need any more wide receiver points, there was another option for you. So, cool. All right. Moving on to game 2. So, biggest blowout that this week was Drew's D-, 133.5 over Chris's Minnesota Fanboy with about a 45-point margin of victory. What do you thought?
Yeah, D's minus's lineup is so good right now. He had 57 points on the bench, which almost was enough to still beat Chris. Solid play with Burrow at 37 points. I mean, even with, 1, 2, 3 people coming in under 10 points, still just dominated this game. Got enough points to beat several other people throughout the league. It was just a heck of a good week, and it just makes it even better that it was such a good blowout.
Yeah, I know for Drew, the big thing that I highlighted was a huge game from Joe Burrow. He had, 36 points. I think that's his season high so far. I can't look at the numbers because we're working off of paper for once, not my computer. And then I know seems like a huge game for him, and I could definitely tell that he was hooked up with Jamar Chase because I noticed he had a huge number when I looked through the numbers later. Deebo Samuel, a little bit of an off game this week from him, only 3 points total. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't watch the Niners game, and they didn't show a whole lot of highlights of it because obviously he didn't score many points. So, over for Chris, anything you want to weigh in on his team?
I love that a team with Minnesota Fanboy as the name is playing Love at the quarterback. I love it even more that it was the bad choice this week. Mayfield on the bench at 23 points obviously wouldn't have been enough, but it at least would have been able to say, I made the right call. But otherwise, just there's no points on the bench. There's no points in the lineup. It was just a rough week for Chris.
Yeah, the couple things I had highlighted here was obviously the 2 weaker performances from your starting lineup. You started Marvin Harrison Jr., had a couple of good weeks to start the season, pretty rough week, only 5 points. Most of the time for a rookie, you'd be pretty happy with that. This week, probably not so much, especially knowing how much you paid for him. Justice Hill, you opted to sub him in. He was Derrick Henry's backup. He had a good game last week, even though Derrick Henry had a really good game. This week, he was unable to replicate that. You know how Chris is I can tell you how Chris is having such a fun season. Last night he came to my house. He crashes at my house about once a month. Last night he got there, and I hadn't looked at his matchup at all this weekend. I asked him, how's your fantasy matchup going? And he was mad, like I was asking to be a dick shot and being like, you fucker, I know you know. Well, actually, I didn't actually know. But then he started complaining about how his team was doing shitty, and that The other thing I was going to call out is one of the things he denoted is one of his starting running backs, Pollard, was on a bye week this week. You're missing your starting running back, and he's got to be on your bench because of a bye. Well, as it turns out, you spend all your money on your starters and have no depth. So that's kind of what happens when you do that.
Yeah, you can make that complaint when it isn't the third time you've lost.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Closest game. Let's see. That was Brandon's blown call, taking out Scott and Josh's pocket dogs. 118.24 to 114.24. Exactly a 4-point margin of victory, which I found to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, not a lot here. Projection was also supposed to be pretty close. Not a lot of choices I see either way on Brandon's side that necessarily could have made too much of a difference. Looking at Scott's side, Dalton, 3 points. That hurts. Definitely a couple things here that could have made a difference, but I don't know that making good decisions is something that Scott is doing this year at all. So first letting Josh draft, and then everything sits. So.
It's easy to pick on the guy that's 0-5, that's for sure. So, the things that I highlighted from this one for Brandon, quarterback performance, obviously Lamar Jackson, huge game again, showing off why he was MVP last year, 33.5 points. Jerry Jeudy in your flex spot, pretty weak game, only 2.6 points. Looking through the stats this week, I happen to notice pretty poor game from Denver's wide receivers, but they still won. I believe that they did actually a pretty decent job rushing the ball. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't see a lot there, but somehow they won. So, wait, no, they lost.
Yeah, they lost.
No, they lost 34-13. Oh yeah, Washington. Okay, that makes sense. Washington is on fire. So, So, and then over for the pocket dogs, again, your wide receiver core continues to do fairly strong overall. You got CD and Nico, and then in your flex spot, 23 from Mike Evans. On your bench, you had 23 from Brian Thomas Jr. You had 4 really good wide receivers. Unfortunately, you tied your top 2. One was in your flex spot, one was on your bench. Also, your defense put up those 20 points, even against Jaden Daniels. There's that Denver defense. So, and then you actually got a really good game out of DeAndre Swift. It turns out Chicago's figuring out they can take some pressure off their rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams, if they run the ball. So DeAndre Swift had a really good game this week.
I do think that was the highest defense score.
I suspect that it was. I didn't notice another one. So, all right, next game. So I've started deciding how I'm going to rank the games that aren't in those top 3 to cover. I'm going to cover them in order of the highest score of any of the games. So just as a kind of a reference for how I'm going to go through ranking these teams from the future on here. So the next game to talk about is obviously Aaron's cousin Subs Hurts Donut, which I love that team name, knocking off Derek's Haktua 140 to 125.8. What do you got to say about yourself there, Aaron?
Yeah, so I was pretty happy to get a text from Derek Thursday night that just said good game. I had 70
was
points.
Was that before or after the game Thursday night?
That was after the game. Picked up Cousins on the waiver wire. Nobody else wanted him. Got him for $10, and obviously that paid off. 70 points that night. Only disappointing thing on my side was Olave, who's a keeper, 3 points. Super disappointing game. 2 receptions. But other than that, pretty happy. I will say, impressed with the turnaround. The expected score Thursday night was nowhere near 15-point difference, but Derek had 3 players under 10 points, and Bigsby, unfortunately, on the bench with 30, which would have put him over after all of that, and I never would have lived it down.
Yeah. Yeah, I did note that his top scorer this week of all of his players was Tanks Bigsby, who was on your bench. It would have been enough to get him in, especially if you'd have gotten him in for Rachaad White. Poor game this week. 9.6 points. Most of the time, you're going to be pretty happy about that. But when you put up 125 and lose by 15, that's not exactly what you want. So, hi. This is Chloe.
Yeah.
Since Steve Gett normally makes an appearance, Chloe has to make an appearance as well. So, the other things that I highlighted for Aaron, you only had 3.4 points on your bench total this week. One guy was all that scored points. You could have gotten that extra 0.4 points into your lineup, so you didn't have a completely perfect lineup, but it was pretty damn good this week. So, that was all I really had. You had covered the other points as well. So, cool. Moving on. Let's see. So next one is Nick's T-Bolden girls 138 over Tom's Always McBride's mate 124. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, first of all, I know this came up last week, but what the hell, Nick? Supposed to win one game. You're now undefeated, just dominating every week. You had one player with less than 10 points. Nothing on the bench that would have brought you up over. And otherwise, for this match, one heck of a defensive battle, right? 18-17 in the defense.
I actually noted it wasn't even just that it was less than 10 points. It was less than 12 points. Every player except for one, which was Pat Fryermuth, scored between 19 and 12 points. That is an A-plus lineup, and I don't think you even had anything else available on your bench that you could get in that would have improved your lineup. You had the absolute optimal lineup in. So, props.
Now, Tom, on the other hand, Tom had Pierce put up 25 points on the bench. And, let's see. You had 10 points in wide receiver, so could have gotten those 15 points. Could have been enough to win. Just an unlucky play there. I mean, although I think, he outperformed 5 times what he was supposed to perform. So, I mean, it was probably a good decision the day of.
Yeah. Your top scorer, Alec Pierce, on the bench, right?
Yep.
That's absolutely. You could have gotten him in, improved. Another strong performance, 18-10 for the whole squad there. Perhaps, maybe making some better decisions as you get apparently older. Happy birthday, buddy. It is your birthday today. That's why I pulled my phone out and confirmed, because I sent him a message. I'm like, before I start making fun of him about his birthday, I want to make sure Facebook wasn't off and didn't have the right day. So he said, gotta love having the fourth-ish highest score and then sitting in 11th. So he must be putting up some decent points, but bad matchups. It's easy to blame the schedule, That's basically what everybody else does in the NFL, so.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And then, this is my turn, actually. So, Eric's Wood knocked off my Detective Pikachu 132-125. Aaron, it sounds like you didn't have a whole lot to talk about from my side, so what would you like to talk about for Eric?
I don't have a lot on either. This, I think, is the first game that nobody on the bench made a difference. Like, it wouldn't have helped. There wasn't somebody there who could have won the game. It is interesting. This is another game. We saw one earlier, right? The projected score difference was 5. The end was 7.5. So it came down pretty close. Looked like you pretty much knew what was going to happen when the game started on Thursday.
I don't like to just live by the projections. I would like things to go the opposite direction usually. Now this week I see Eric, had a great week from Kyler Murray, get 24 points there. Deontay Johnson did not have a real great game for you, 5 points at your starting wide receiver, but you got the win anyways. Take it any way you can get it. For me, I have been saying, I pretty much looked at this week and I'm like, this is probably going to be a loss for me. I was missing Saquon Barkley, my wide receiver 1, Devin Singletary, my running back 1 and running back 2, Barkley and Singletary, and then I'm missing wide receiver 1 and 2 in Puka and Devontae Smith. So my team is pretty hobbled this week. Hopefully things will look up a little bit better in the future, but still scrapping out 125 points, especially with some of those bench players that I thought were going to have good games eventually in the season, starting to pop off. I had a good game from Rashid Shaheed. He's been a really good play so far this year. And then I got a really good performance from Rico Dowdle. Hopefully Dallas continues to feed him the ball instead of giving it to the corpse of Ezekiel Elliott. And I didn't have anything on the bench, so that should be it. All right, last one. So, Will's Galactic Gibbs Gang, 119 over Trent's Deucing in the Laporta John, 84. So, 119-84. What are your thoughts?
First thing I saw looking at some of these scores, if you take Chase off the board, both of these teams look like they scored as if they forgot to set their lineup. Just not great points out of anybody. Nobody over 20 across the board except for Chase. 44 points, just dominated, took the game. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 people under 10 points, a couple under 5 for Will. And then, on Trent's side, you've got the kicker with 0, which it wasn't negative. It could have been worse.
It's not like he got hurt either. He made a PAT and he missed a PAT.
Yep.
I mean, it was against Green Bay, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah,
I'm sure
right.
Trent's probably not real upset about it either. So
yeah. Yeah, the only thing on Trent's side, I mean, he had Rodgers on the bench put up 11 points, which is, almost 3 times what Darnold put up. But it still wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah. The couple things I had highlighted on this, Will had 0 points on the bench this week. Nothing. You had absolutely everything in the lineup, and you played everything you could. So you did play Jordan Whittington against the Packers, which ended up being a good play. He put up 15 points. The Sam Darnold call-out, he only put up 4 points. I got burned by that as well in our Dynasty League. I should have started Kirk Cousins instead last week, as he threw for like 500 yards and change, but did not go down that route, unlike Aaron here. So props to you for that. So, and then the other thing I highlighted was for Trent, the 16 points from Wan'Dale Robinson in the flex spot. Cool. All right, that's the last of the matchups. Just kind of giving an update this week on waiver wires. I wrote it in teeny little Post-it notes because I'm not blind or anything, so we'll see how this goes. Obviously, we talked about Kareem Hunt. That was the big waiver wire this week. Went for $37 to Lee, over 8 players. Everybody else was 2 or 3 players at the most. Trey Sermon went to Drew for $19. Dontavian Wicks went 13 to Chris. He had a crappy game, a lot of drops. That seems to be a problem he's having so far this season. Tucker Kraft, huge game. Ethan didn't get him into his lineup, though. $10 to him. Kate Otten for $6 went to Scott and Josh. And then Aaron actually called it out, but I had specifically denoted it. Kirk Cousins for $10 to Aaron against nobody. So that was the highest that anybody spent on a player that was not also bid against. So $10, you could have gotten him for $1.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Also my first waiver pick of the year. So.
Oh, there you go. Well,
yeah. The only other thing, that I was going to say, I was very, very excited yesterday. At the end of the day, all the scores came in. I got 140 points. I started looking through. I said, holy shit. For the first time ever, I might actually win something out of this league. Fucking Lee with an extra 8 points over top of me. Come on.
Yeah, man. Disappointing. So the only other update I have is on our IDP league, which the 4 of us are playing. Week 5 scoring. Aaron's team put up 56 points. My team put up 45. Tom had 36. Scotty B had 35. Overall standings, I'm still in first. Aaron's in second. Scotty B's in third there instead of being in last. So thumbs up for that league. And then Tom is in last. So that's all I got. That is week 5. Thank you to Aaron for joining this week. Hopefully it wasn't terrible. I guess we'll see if you come back for another appearance at some point. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.